If there's one thing every serious gardener understands, it's that worms are the heartbeat of living soil. Without them, the ground quickly becomes lifeless, compacted, and unable to hold on to nutrients. With them, your soil transforms into a living sponge, teeming with microbes, full of air tunnels, and naturally fertilized with castings that no bag of synthetic fertilizer can ever match. But here's the problem. Many gardens today, even those that are organic, are running low on worms. Pesticides, overcultivation, and poor feeding habits have stripped the soil of its natural workforce. And this is where a forgotten, almost old-world trick comes in. Something so simple, so overlooked, yet unbelievably effective. I'm talking about crushed rice. Yes, that humble grain in your pantry might just be the secret to doubling your worm population and supercharging your soil. Stay with me for the next minute, because once you hear how this works, you'll never toss out leftover rice again. The reason crushed rice works so well is because it provides both a steady food source and a microbial boost that worms absolutely love. When rice is crushed into smaller pieces and worked into the soil, it doesn't just sit there. Instead, it quickly becomes a buffet for soil microbes and fungi, which break it down into simpler compounds. These microbes multiply rapidly, and wherever microbes flourish, worms follow. Think of crushed rice as the starter fuel that kickstarts a microbial bloom underground, making your garden bed irresistible to worms. It's not the rice itself that the worms are after. It's the thriving microbial ecosystem that forms around it. What makes this method stand out from dumping kitchen scraps or tossing in grass clippings is how slow and balanced the breakdown is. Crushed rice doesn't rot too fast, which means it avoids foul smells and pests that sometimes plague composting mistakes. Instead, it breaks down gradually, feeding microbes over time. This steady release keeps worm populations consistently active instead of spiking and dying back. And with every pass of a worm through the soil, you're getting nutrient-rich castings deposited right where your plants need them most. That's a natural fertilizer factory working for you 24 hours a day, with no machinery and no expense. The beauty of this trick is that it doesn't require any complicated process, but there is a method that makes it most effective. You don't want to toss in whole rice grains because they can sprout or take too long to break down. Crushing the rice, whether by hand with a mortar and pestle, a rolling pin, or a simple grinder, creates uneven fragments that microbes can get into quickly. Once crushed, scatter a thin layer across the soil surface, or better yet, lightly work it into the top 2 inches of soil. Water it in gently, and then let nature take over. You'll find that within days, worm activity increases, and within weeks, the soil texture begins to shift. It becomes darker, looser, and more alive under your hands. You might be wondering, if crushed rice is so effective, why isn't everyone using it? The truth is, before the age of chemical fertilizers, farmers and gardeners relied on a variety of local, low-cost soil enhancers. Rice, in many parts of the world, was a staple, not only on the dinner table but in the field. But as agriculture shifted toward industrial solutions, these quiet, natural tricks faded into the background. Bagged fertilizer became the norm, and traditions like feeding the soil with crushed rice were lost. Today, as more of us return to organic gardening and sustainable growing, it's time to dust off these forgotten methods and make them part of our regular practice again. When you start incorporating crushed rice into your garden routine, don't expect a miracle overnight, but do expect steady, visible change. Within a month, you'll notice that your soil has more worm castings scattered across the surface. Dig a little deeper, and you'll see more worms wriggling through the soil than before. Over time, this means healthier root systems for your plants, better drainage, stronger nutrient cycling, and a garden that seems to need fewer outside inputs to thrive. Gardeners who stick with it often find that their beds develop a self-sustaining rhythm. Worms breed, microbes thrive, and plants respond with bigger harvests. The forgotten crushed rice trick is a reminder that some of the most powerful tools for soil fertility don't come from the store shelf. They come from simple, time-tested practices that our ancestors understood. It costs almost nothing, requires no special equipment, and works with the natural systems already in place in your garden. When you add crushed rice, you're not just feeding worms. You're creating an environment where soil life flourishes, and that's the foundation of every successful garden. So next time you see that bag of rice in your pantry, think of it as more than just food for you. Think of it as a way to build healthier soil, grow stronger plants, and revive one of the simplest, most effective traditions in organic gardening. Try it, and watch how quickly your soil transforms when worms move back in and take charge. And if you found this guide helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Gentle Herb Living. Share this with a fellow gardener, and keep this lost knowledge alive. The future of gardening isn't about fancy chemicals. It's about rediscovering these timeless secrets that make the soil thrive.